That was my moment of silence for one of the worst Super Bowls of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Postgame Super Bowl analysis show. I am the host of the show, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis. Let's break down exactly what transpired on Super Bowl 53. First and foremost, granted, a lot of people out here talking about it was the worst Super Bowl of all time. I don't agree with that. One of the worst, yes, but I wouldn't say it's the worst. If you ever saw Super Bowl 5, those who are old enough to remember the Baltimore Colts taking on the Miami Dolphins, I believe in 1971. Well, the game took place in 72, but nonetheless, that was one of the worst Super Bowls of all time. You had 11 turnovers, wasn't that great. You had Super Bowl 20, where you saw the Chicago Bears absolutely blow out the New England Patriots. You had Super Bowl 24, I believe the Denver Broncos blew out, the Denver Broncos got blown out. One of the three of the 4 years where Elway went to the Super Bowl and kept getting blown out, where the San Francisco 49ers took care of business. You had Super Bowl 27, where the Buffalo Bills got blown out by the Dallas Cowboys. Hell, you had Super Bowl you can look at 48, where the Broncos blew out, the Broncos got blown out. The Seattle Seahawks blew out the Broncos. Why am I giving the Broncos Super Bowl W's in which they did not get? On top of that, you could close it out with Super Bowl 40, where the Pittsburgh Steelers took on the damn Seattle Seahawks in one of the most quietest games, not really that exciting. So there's been a ton of different Super Bowls which people can categorize as boring. It depends on what your personal preference is. Granted, we have a lot of younger people who like to use sensationalized words and come out here and talk about ever and use such strong words and use it so cavalier. But nonetheless, all right, it was one of the worst Super Bowls that I've seen with my eyes. Defensive game. I'm pretty sure that's Roger Goodell calling right now. Hey man, you can't be critiquing our Super Bowls. We don't come out here fixing the games because we know we can't put that out there. But still, it was entertaining for me. I didn't like I had to give Brady another Lombardi because when it was Deflategate, I actually looked kind of stupid. We're not gonna sit over here calling me Roger Goodell, but nonetheless, all right, this is what transpired in the game. First and foremost, congratulations to the New England Patriots, cementing themselves as the greatest dynasty across all sports, bar none. A lot of people talk about cheating, a lot of people talk about scandals. It doesn't matter how many scandals you have, they've been here after you outed them, before you outed them. Hell, even if it was true or not, they still found a way to win many games. Or I believe they won well over 250 games since 2000. I think they're like 40 ahead of the number 2, who happens to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, but we ain't talking about that right now. So the way I saw this game, first it was a defensive sort of matchup between both teams. I initially said that it was going to be low scoring. I did not foresee it being this low of scoring, where we went into the fourth quarter with a 3-3 tie. Nobody could have told me that was going to be the case, and I believed them. I did not see that coming. All right, so kudos to both defensive coordinators, more importantly Bill Belichick, because you know it's pretty much him who runs the entire thing. Yes, there's other people who calls the plays, but he runs the system, or I should say he orchestrates the system in which those coaches under him happen to run. So kudos to him, and also Wade Phillips. You know, my father Bud should have been in the Super Bowl with the Love You Blue Oilers in 1979, when Refno had both his feet down, but the referees didn't have the luxury of instant replay, so they said it was an incomplete pass. The Pittsburgh Steelers shouldn't have had 4 Lombardis. It should have been the Oilers in the Super Bowl. I feel you, Bud Phillips. I feel you. It was a terrible call. Unfortunately, we can't go back in time. For Wade, you're still feeling the effects of, getting screwed over by a team that should have been able to go the entire way. Luckily for him, he has himself a Super Bowl trophy, or I should say a ring, because you can't take the trophy, you're a coach. But this is what I saw transpire in the game. We're just going to start with the Los Angeles Rams, because ultimately, offensively, I believe they cost themselves this game. Yes, the Patriots did a phenomenal job. However, the Rams outcoached themselves. All right, they got outcoached as well, but they also outcoached themselves, and I'll break it down exactly why. Remember when I said the Rams shouldn't be like the St. Louis Rams of 17 years prior? They did that exact same thing. Remember Marshall Faulk only had 17 carries in that Super Bowl game when there was nothing but running lanes wide open? In total, the Rams this past Sunday only ran the ball 18 times for, 62 yards? Todd Gurley had 3 touches through the entire first half. That's absolutely, that doesn't make any sense. All right, that is one of the dumbest sort of play calls, or I should say play calling performance that I saw from Sean McVay. Also, Jared Goff did not even come out of the gate looking as if he wanted to play. If you saw during the national anthem, I usually look into a player's eyes. I want to see if they got that fire, that intensity, something to look like they're ready to go. Jared Goff looked like a deer in the headlights. He didn't know what was going on. On top of that, he threw a total of 38 passes. What would be a purpose of throwing 38 passes with this Los Angeles Rams offense, where we saw them start out to such a great start, where I believe they were, 8-0 before they lost to the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans, where you saw them run the ball and they had a balanced attack. This was so overlapped towards the passing attack. It made no sense when you were in such a close, tight-knit game. Jared Goff threw 38 passes, completed 19. It was pretty much half. 50% completion. All right, 229 and an interception. He did not play well at all. Granted, the play calling selection was terrible as well. They had deep crossing routes. They had deep routes down the field, verticals left and right. He wasn't getting the time to do all of that. And then when they had the short yardage routes, they were all within 2 to 4 yards. It didn't make any sense. I did not understand what sort of play calling situation they were trying to go out there and do. It made no sense to me. Sean McVay, what were he plays that you were calling? What did you see on film to where you thought this was going to work? Because when Gurley got the ball in his hands, you saw some running lanes open. You saw him get a first down. They had a questionable holding call that they called back. I believe it was on the center, which that wasn't a hold. All right, I understand. Sometimes a ref throw bad flags and you get bad calls, but you just saw the man have a successful run. Keep feeding him. 3 carries in the first half, 8 consecutive punts. They did not convert a third down until the tail end of the third quarter, when I believe Jared Goff connected with Robert Woods. Or I should say they converted on third down, not convert a first down, because they got a couple of first downs prior. But you were 3 for 13 on third down. How? How does this happen? The Patriots played great defense, of course, yeah, but the play calling selection, it was a terrible offensive play calling selection. On top of that, you talk about the offensive line, they ain't really come to play either. All right, because Jared Goff was under duress. He got hit a ton of times. There had times where he rolled out of the pocket and the receivers never thought, hey, our quarterback's running towards the right. Let's go try to trail him. That was not the case. There had times where this man could have thrown the ball away, but he didn't and took a sack when Kyle Van Noy hit him. And they weren't in field goal range, but they were about like the 40, I think they were about like the 46 or something like that. He took like a 10, 12-yard sack. You didn't have to just throw the ball away. What's the purpose of that? I know you're about to go punt anyway, but what you taking a sack for? Mentally, that doesn't do good. Well, I shouldn't say mentally, but psychologically, well, technically it's the exact same thing. But it doesn't work well for the offensive line when they see the quarterback get hit like that. They're like, damn, we let him down again. If you're over there moping left and right, you've already lost the game. 9 penalties the Rams had. Granted, there were some bad calls early in the first quarter when Rex Burkhead got hit and all of a sudden they said hit on a defenseless receiver. I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. I guess that's just payback for what happened in the New Orleans and the Rams game, trying to please people, because that didn't make any sense to me. What do you want, Rex Burkhead to turn around? Hey, I'm about to turn around with the football. How do you throw that flag? It doesn't make any sense. More importantly, defenseless, he just caught the ball. He literally caught. It's not as if the pass was incomplete and he got rocked like a Troy Polamalu, Wes Welker sort of situation years ago. That wasn't the case. He caught the ball. You threw a flag. It didn't make any sense to me. Then, all right, what else I have here? Brandon Cooks, 2 drop passes, 2 potential TDs. The one where he was wide open, Jared Goff took too long to pass it to him, and then I think it was Devin McCourty or his brother who came over, Jason, and broke up the pass. Hell of a defensive play, but Brandon Cooks, you already know the rule. Ball touches your hands, you got to catch it. Bottom line. We're both receivers. You play on a professional level, of course. You should have been able to catch the football. Bottom line. But all right, I'll give you that one. The second one, inexcusable. Oh, but there's 2 people who are there. It doesn't matter. You got to make that catch. Because we've seen season long, time in, time out, we've seen ton of different players be able to make that catch. You got to be able to make that catch. 2nd consecutive Super Bowl. This man's nowhere to be found. But he had 8 catches. He had 120 yards. Well, what did that translate in? Because when they needed him the most, did he catch the ball? Absolutely not. The times in which you saw him catch the ball, the man ain't really have no coverage around him. It's not hard to drop a wide open pass. Or if you got 5-yard separation. It's hard to catch a ball when you're in, traffic. when there's some people that's around you, when it's a big time moment to make a big time play. And when they, you know what they say about big time games, you know, big time players make big time plays in big time games. And Brandon Cooks, you ain't looking familiar right now when we talk about big time players. You got the numbers, but from what I saw, wasn't a great performance from you, my brother. I told you before the game, there was going to be the two people who had to make plays, Cooks, Woods. Woods showed up when you needed him, 5 catches, 70 yards. I told you he's going to be in that range. Brandon Cooks, he had the numbers the way I predicted. Just dropped the big passes that should have been caught. C.J. Anderson, you dropped the ball on the floor after a phenomenal stiff arm. All right, took Gilmore's soul out, but he fumbled. It could have been a big time play. If he gets to that sideline, which he was at, plants his foot and cuts up the cut-ups field, he has a chance for a huge play. That could shift the course. Although that wasn't the case. Then, defensively, Wade Phillips called a phenomenal game. You kept the Patriots 2 for 13 on third down. No, 3 for 12 on third down. Pardon me. Only person who performed was Edelman. This game reminded me so much of last year's Steelers versus the Patriots game, where Jesse James, the catch, no catch sort of situation, where you saw the entire game. Brady was struggling. The offensive line was struggling. The run game was pretty much non-existent. Well, in this case, you know, Sony Michel had 94 yards, but just discounting that for the current thing. You saw only Gronk had a good game. And this particular game, this Super Bowl, the Rams shut down everybody outside of Edelman. Yes, Michel had good numbers, but it wasn't as if he was eating up the entire game. He had a good run here, he had a good run here, and then he had a bunch of bulkage, yardage where it was a 3 here, a 4 here, a 5 here, but then it would ultimately result in a punt. But Edelman kept getting his, but they were still not able to get to the red zone. So even though Edelman was eating, you say, well, you got to make your adjustments. It worked perfectly because they did not score until they found themselves in a turnover situation. Or was it a turnover situation? Yeah, I think after they threw the interception, then they went down the field and scored. But regardless of what it was, Edelman contributed and he did his part, but everybody else was pretty much shut down. Yes, Gronk had 6 catches, 87 yards. Did it feel as if he had the 87 was a huge presence on the field? Not really. It was that one long pass where Brady threw an absolute dime. And then he had a couple of passes over the middle, but outside of that, Gronk can't really do too much. Edelman was getting whatever he wanted. And granted, working the middle of the field, doing what he does. Like I told you guys, they were going to work the inside out. And Edelman got majority of his pass catches from the inside out. But outside of that, Brady wasn't too much of a factor. Offensive line, yes, Brady only got sacked once. It was 4 QB hits, but they were getting off the field. They were 3 for 12 on third down. But offensively, they could not capitalize. Could not capitalize. For the Patriots, the run game was effective. They had over, I think it was 142 yards total. Rex Burkhead had 40 yards or maybe 30 yards or something. As I said before, Sony PlayStation Michel, 94 yards. They ran effectively for what they had to, you know, pick up here and there. Rex Burkhead had that big run towards the end of the game. You had Sony Michel, that huge run towards the end of the game. So those two can be attributed to the yardage when you look at it on the statistics. But if you really break down the game, their running game wasn't really the story. It looks good on the paper, but it wasn't really the story of the game. Edelman was pretty much the offense. All right, defensively, the Patriots up front, they got to Jared Goff 4 times. Very good up front. They hit him, I think, 7, but I may be wrong, give or take. But their front 4 played phenomenal. Dante Hightower, I told you he'd be a difference maker, and you saw it with 2 sacks. He was also in the passing game. He dropped the interception. He should have caught that. Very good. I think they had, 3 penalties, maybe 2. It wasn't anything for, astronomical amount of yards. Punting, Allen, phenomenal game. Phenomenal game. If Edelman did not play the way that he did, I'd give the punter the goddamn MVP because he was pinning the Rams inside the 10 like it was nothing. It reminded me of Matt Cyphers when they played against when the Indianapolis Colts took on the San Diego Chargers back in 2009. I think the playoff game was, and that man was the MVP of the game because he pinned the Colts inside the 5, I think 4 times. And granted, you can be a great quarterback left and right, but if you're pinned that deep, sooner or later the defense gonna get to you. And Jared Goff was lucky he didn't get himself a safety, because when he was throwing outside of his own end zone and threw the ball away right before Johnny Hekker kicked the longest punt in NFL Super Bowl history, there could have been a safety sort of situation. I don't think there was a missed hold call. I don't think that was the case, but there was a spot in which if one of the Patriots, if they ran a certain sort of blitz, they could have got to the quarterback and forced a safety. But it was a phenomenal game called by Belichick and his staff defensively. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But the Rams, offensively, they cost themselves the game. It wasn't as if, the Patriots took away all their options. The Rams didn't even use majority of their playbook. I told you guys all season, if it becomes the Jared Goff show, they're going to lose. They're not. I have no confidence in them running a Jared Goff show. He's capable of, putting up numbers. He's capable of winning games with his arm, but it makes no sense if your balanced attack is one of the most unstoppable attacks in the league. Don't talk to me about Gurley possibly being hurt. I don't buy it. I don't buy it, because he had 2 weeks to, prepare. He had 2 weeks to get healthy. More importantly, when we saw them not throw when we saw them say, well, Gurley might be hurt, you ran the ball with C.J. Anderson. They didn't even try to run the ball this game. They didn't. We saw some situations where they had 3 consecutive passes. What was that? It was frustrating. This is just frustrating to watch. I enjoyed the defense's play, but to watch how we're talking about, well, coming into this game, you got the mastermind in Bill Belichick, coaching against the young up-and-coming guy in McVay, and McVay went out there and laid an egg. This entire loss is on the shoulders of McVay, Goff, and partially the offensive line. Brandon Cooks, you in there too, so I'll just sprinkle a little bit paprika. Yeah, that's you, Brandon Cooks. You dropped 2 passes. That should have been touchdowns. But yeah, that's my analysis on the game. You guys let me know what you thought. I know a lot of people are talking about, well, it was boring. I was yawning the entire time. What about the halftime show? I was watching Halftime Heat on the WWE Network. I don't know what happened in the halftime show. A bunch of people talking about Adam Levine showed his nipples. What about when Janet Jackson had a nipple show out? Oh, sexism. Well, whatever. I wasn't watching it. People were talking about Sweet Victory and SpongeBob. I only seen 1 episode of SpongeBob my entire life, ironically. Didn't have cable until I was 14 in 2008, so what you want me to do? But yeah, that's been the analysis of the Super Bowl. Congratulations to the New England Patriots once again, now getting 6 Lombardis in an 18-year history. And I'll say this to the people who just happen to hate on the Patriots. Enjoy, greatness, at least for the Patriots fans, because it's all downhill from here. But for the fans on the outside, truly appreciate what it is that you're watching, because you're probably never going to see it again at this caliber. The people who are watching in the 1940s and early 50s, when they saw Otto Graham and Paul Brown for the Cleveland Browns in the what was it called at that time? Was it the NFL? What was it? I can't remember what the name of the league was. But when they was going to 10 consecutive championships and winning 7, and I'm guaranteeing you, people back then was like, I had enough of the Cleveland Browns, and look at them now. Everybody laughs at the Cleveland Browns, but they don't remember at that time. I can guarantee you, if in 20 years or 30 years, the Patriots don't go back or win any Super Bowls without Brady or Belichick, people are going to sit over here and act as if that doesn't exist. History does exist, people. It doesn't matter how long ago. As much flack as I give to Cowboys fans, those Cowboys of the early 90s, they were something special, man. Those Steelers of the mid-70s to the tail end of the 70s, they were something special. The 49ers of the 80s, they were something special. All right? The Packers of the 60s, they won 5 championships. They were something special. Respect greatness, appreciate what it is that you're watching, and after it's gone, you're gonna start to miss it. Because let's just be honest, Patriots fans hated Peyton Manning. Manning's not there no more. When you watch Colts versus Patriots, does it have the same feel? When you watch the Patriots versus the Broncos, does it have the same feel? Ravens fans hated Hines Ward. They hated Troy Polamalu. When they play each other now, does it have the same feel? Steelers fans were supposed to hate Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. Does it have the same feel when they play each other? Respect the greats, man, and congratulations to Tom Brady. This particular game, I felt as if he got carried, but it doesn't really matter because he was the one who was out there throwing the ball. It's a team effort, so it's not as if, I get carried to a W. It's not the case. All right, so congratulations, New England Patriots, 6 Lombardis in 18 years. More importantly, they won 3 Super Bowls in 6 years, 2 in 3 years. The dynasty continues. Let's see what transpires next season. I have been the host of the show, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis, and I'm about to go do this Chiseled Adonis challenge. Y'all enjoy y'all Tuesday. More importantly, stay tuned for the rest of the Chiseled Adonis Awards coming very soon, later this week. And no football for 6 months. That sucks.